You know how people talk about this future where electric cars will take over the world and petrol cars will be killed off forever? Well,
From 2030, the sale of new diesel-only and petrol-only cars will be banned. That's a decade earlier than originally planned, but some hybrid vehicles will be allowed.
yep, the British Prime Minister has just announced that starting 2030, the sale of any new petrol and diesel cars is completely banned in the UK, and any new cars that you can buy starting 2030 have to be fully electric. Well, they can be hybrids till about 2035, but after 2035, if you want to buy a new car, you can't buy petrol, you can't buy diesel, you can't buy hybrid. They have to be fully electric. Now, this is the coming of one of the moments in history where you're like, whoa, this is actually happening. And just to get you the facts, they're not saying you've got to throw your current petrol car in the bin. You can continue to keep that after the ban. And you can also buy used petrol and diesel cars as well. But the bottom line is that from 2030, UK car companies are only allowed to make and sell cars that are electric. Now, this is Britain's big play towards their green revolution with the aim of being net neutral on carbon emissions by 2050. And in fact, next year in 2021, Britain are hosting the UN Climate Change Summit. So by announcing the ban on petrol cars now, it's their idea of look what we're doing sort of statement. So what do I think about it? Well, first of all, it is insanely ambitious. The initial plan was 2040 in the ban, and then they brought it forward to 2035, and now they've said 2030, which is only 9 years away, which is a bit mad. I don't believe it is enough time for the industry to get to a point where we can be comfortable with outlawed petrol cars. And that makes this plan potentially a bit stupid, because you see, if you're going to say that in 9 years you can't buy new petrol cars, you better have new affordable electric cars available by then. Right now, electric cars make up 1, maybe 2% of all cars on UK roads. So when the demand is that low, production is obviously low. And when the technology is this new, electric cars just right now are not cheap. And that is a crucial factor, because when you say from now on we sell only electric cars, these cars just have to be a lot cheaper than they are right now. The range has to get better, the charging infrastructure has to be there, and that's a whole different problem. So I'm not sure how all of this will happen by 2030. It is so optimistic. If all of this does happen by 2030, then I'm fully for this idea. But if it doesn't, it's like showing up to an exam with only a couple of nights of shoddy revision. You're gonna fail, Right idea, right place, wrong time. Another concern, and this is for the UK's sake, they're gonna ban petrol cars by 2030 and say, yeah, fully electric. But when 2030 does come around and the technology isn't there yet, and they're unable to convince the rest of the world to do this, and to convince the global market to come with them into this green electric revolution, for the UK car industry, it's a bit of a suicide mission going this early. And also, I don't know how the UK are taking charge here. America, China, and Korea are the ones doing all the work. I don't know where Britain is getting this confidence from. And now that we got my big concerns out of the way, let me tell you why going in this electric direction is a wonderful thing. Firstly, the world has to adopt electric transport. There's no denying it. It is the next step. Whether you like it or not, electric is the future. And I hear the concerns of, electric not being as green as it is made out to be, and that's true. But I can tell you categorically that it is a lot greener right now than petroleum is. And as the technology gets better, it will only get greener. And for the vast majority of people, over 90% of the general population, cars are just ordinary, small, cheap means of transport to and from work, the short urban commutes. Electric just makes a lot of sense. They're quiet in the city, they're chill, they're easy to handle, there's less mechanical parts causing trouble. It just overall, it does make a lot of sense. And especially, if you own that car, in the lifetime of you owning that car, or the main thing that you do is traveling 10 kilometers to and from work, and the range that these cars right now give you is about 300-350 miles on a single full charge, then just charge it at home like twice a week, like you charge your Fitbit. if that's all that you've got to do, and all of this helps, pollution and the environment in a massive way, electric just makes sense. One big opposition that I know people have against electric cars, and I kind of do as well, is that petrol cars just have a lot of character. They have a certain personality, and electric cars are all the same. They're a bit dull, and that comes from the way that a petrol car sounds. The engine noises, the V12 engines, the V10s, the grunting noises. In response to this, yeah, you're still allowed to keep these wonderful, characterful, loud cars. You don't have to throw them away when 2030 comes around. And if you're under the assumption that car companies still make these sorts of cars, these V12s and V10s, even without the 2030 ban, you still won't get these insanely loud cars, just because even without the ban, car companies are not allowed to make these sort of cars anymore. There are certain emission and noise limit regulations that these car companies have to adhere to, which means they actually can't make V12s and V10s anymore. They're making V4 supercars these days. So if you're expecting, just because because of this ban, car companies will be forced to stop making super loud Shelby Mustangs, it's just not the case. And all this talk is only in the discussion of supercars, something that most people will never want or afford. So when it comes to the normal cars, this discussion isn't even there, because do you give a shit about the engine noise and the personality of a Maruti Suzuki Swift? Also, let's not take anything away from electric super performance cars either. They are coming, they can handle just as well as petrol cars. And because they are electric motors, the acceleration is unbelievable.
Had their story in this car, and
all the fastest cars these days are either electric or at least hybrid. So there really isn't much to complain about the direction that we're heading in. It is the electric revolution, and Britain are kicking it off. So in conclusion, the next 9 years are critical. If electric vehicle technology gets better, if the electric cars get a lot more affordable, if batteries get better, affordable and better recyclable, if the range gets better, if there are superchargers everywhere, cleaner energy by 2030, then the rest of the world will follow Britain into this green electric vehicle revolution, and we start leaving petrol cars behind for good and start a new era. Let's just hope we're ready by then. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you so much for your time. As always, subscribe, like, share, etc., 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 and see you next time. Yeah, bye.